So getting a little bit closer. I got the starter on today. I got this oil line for the tensioner in and mounted, and I had to make a gasket for that. That was the only one I didn't have a gasket for. And I put a little bit of ultra gray on there too. Just a tiny bit to keep it in place. Got the valve cover on, as you can see. I cleaned up the carbs. I adjusted the floats. I opened up both the bowls and the tops to make sure everything was good. And it's a good thing I did, because the slides in there were pretty gunked up from the last desert trip. It really had a lot of powdery silt inside there in those slides. So I'm glad I took those apart and cleaned them up. I'm going to take those off, of course, before I put it back together. The bike, that is. I'm going to try and put the engine in tomorrow. But everything's looking pretty good. One more step in the right direction. Okay, so made a little more progress today. The motor's mounted. I've got all the hoses in place. I didn't fasten them all because I don't have clamps for them all yet. But everything seems to be in good shape, and all of the hoses that needed to be replaced, I replaced. And just so you guys know, if you ever replace this hose here that goes into the frame strainer, there is a spring inside the original hose. And inside diameter of this hose is 10 millimeter. I was able to find a reinforced hose on the internet. I didn't have any luck going to any of the shops finding that. Got the rear swing arm mounted up and the shock connected. I didn't put the foot pegs back on yet because my crash bar is a little bent, and I want to bend that back straight before I put it back together. The other thing to note is that there is an oil breather hose on this side of the motor. Connects right there, goes up over the top of the motor, and actually connects to the side of the air box. Took me forever to find that, but if you go straight back up in there, there's a little nub coming out of the air box, and you can see the battery tube, but the actual tube from that breather is behind it. And it was kind of hard to find. I couldn't figure out for the longest time where exactly that went. I also cleaned up all my connections, so everything that I had apart, I cleaned up with some electronic cleaner and put some dielectric grease on it. And I also replaced the resistor with a 10 ohm resistor, which is supposed to even more improve the spark. I already did the brass monkey fix that they do on the F650s on the spark plug cable, and I didn't realize you had to do that resistor too to make it work even better. So I'm hoping that's going to be the deal. And if anybody ever needs any of these connectors, man, these are the ones that you have to connect inside that housing that you would put on the resistor. Nobody around here had these in stock, and I went to like 6 or 8 different stores, motorcycle shops, auto parts stores, electronic stores, nothing. I got like 100 of these for $6. So if you put a message with your email or something on it, I'll send you a couple for free if you need them, because they were super cheap, and I'll never ever ever use all of those. So tires in place, but it's not mounted. I've still got my bike kind of up on a stand here. It's just a little easier to work on. And before I had the swing arm on, that was actually the easiest way to put the motor back in. And we should get everything else buttoned up here in the next day or so. Cleaning up the exhaust today, trying to get the mating surfaces as cleaned up as possible. Pretty good, not perfect, but we just really need to slide them in and out of those sleeves pretty easy. and I got the one sleeve inserted. I had to pry those tabs out just a little bit to get that sleeve in. It was pretty tight, and also got the other part of the header cleaned up pretty well as well. So this actually fits into that sleeve there. I was going to go back on the bike. These exhaust gaskets I got from China, they're the right diameter, but they're a little bit too long, so you can see where I scored it with a razor blade all the way around to about the same as the original exhaust gaskets, and I'm just going to take that right off. The bike is back together and running really well. So I got all of the hoses replaced. I've got the coolant in. It seems to be circulating through the coolant fine. I haven't actually put gas in it yet. I've been running it off of a little bottle. But the bike seems to start right up, and no leaks, no coughs, no sputters. Seems to do really good. Fix some wiring problems I had. The carburetors were super difficult to get back in. They're really fiddly. It seems like the boots have shrunk a little bit because they don't really make a good connection. So I guess we'll see how that pans out. But otherwise, it's been a successful build. I'm going to take it for a test ride, and I'll make some short notes after.